Hello, everyone. If Joe Biden is the president-elect, then this is The Delve. Hello, everyone. We've been doing this thing where we are shuffling through our team, and everyone gets to be a co-host with me for the week. This week, we have Jess from Sound. Jess, how's it going?
Oh, it's going really well now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like all of humanity can take like a collective exhale, you know? Like we've just been like holding our breath. And we have a new president. Yeah,
no, it's finally over. Honestly, I really felt the taking a breath myself. I definitely was strapped to the news stations and the TVs, listening to every second of the election. So it is nice to finally have a moment and it not be a bad moment.
Right. And it's finally not a bad moment. And while I guess we have a new president, there's one person still not accepting these results. The current president himself, Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah. Very, very strange. I guess he's not really used to being a loser or being fired, but oh, how the tables have turned here. So yeah, this episode we're speaking with some really great folks, Etta and Arlene, and they're mindfulness teachers. And I guess before we go into the interview, let's talk a little bit about how you feel and I guess how I feel and how we've been kind of handling this very stressful situation. How did you manage to do it? How'd you get through it?
Well, the week itself was really rough, honestly, and I really could have used some mindfulness myself. And actually, I already listened to the episode ahead, and I actually found it really helpful. Some of the things they mentioned, I was like, wow, I wished I did that.
Good, yeah. Yeah, it was very stressful. I think as Americans, we're used to having election day, and by that evening or going late into the night, we kind of know who the next president's going to be. No, this was election week.
Yeah, and it was an absolute roller coaster. Tuesday felt awful. Wednesday also felt awful, but then Thursday morning, everything started feeling better, and then
there's a hint of light coming through at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly.
And by Saturday, boom, we were all right. We had come out on the other side.
I was with my sister when it hit, and everyone texted us, and I was like, oh my god, what a reason to celebrate. I headed back to Brooklyn, because I live in Brooklyn, and man, the streets, it erupted in cheers, and it felt so good to just hear everyone just celebrate and feel good. It was really cool.
Yeah, there's been celebrations across the country. It's kind of reminiscent of 2008 when President Obama first got elected. And there was these spontaneous celebrations all across the country. And we've gotten a bit of that. So, oh gosh, it just feels so good to be moving into an era.
It feels very uniting.
Okay, well, I guess without much further ado, let's have a listen to Etta and Arlene and all that good stuff.
Sounds good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Delves. Today we have two really amazing guests, and I'm so excited to have them on. We're going to go over the election and just talk about mindfulness and all that good stuff. So, everyone, welcome Etta and Arlene. How's it going?
Hello. Hi, guys.
How are you?
Good. Hanging in there. As good as I can be.
Right.
During this trying time. Yeah.
What trying time? What are you talking about? What's going on?
America is dumpster fire right now. Yeah. Just a bunch of old people who should know better fucking it up for everybody. Oh my god. I don't care. Everybody's grown. It's collective. It's a collective fuckery. A group of adults nationally acting like children, and then That's where we're at right now. That's our reality. So.
That's where we are.
Yeah, that's where we are for the past several years.
Right. We had this once in a 4-year opportunity to turn the page and have a restart. And America said, no. Kind of like where we are. What's up with that? What happened?
Okay, I have my theories. I think with COVID, we've been on the internet way too much, and we've been consuming a lot of media, and a lot of media that is directing our lines of thinking and confirming our already set belief systems. So if you already had a bias one way or the other, what you're consuming is being fed back to you. And then we're getting all of these conspiracy theories and different schools of thinking that only have support of specific news outlets or media outlets, whether it be Facebook, whether Instagram, cable news networks at this point, and you're just getting more and more confirmation. And I think that is what kept it going. Like, I really did believe there was going to be a dramatic shift, and there wasn't. And I think it's because of where everybody's getting their information from. And then instead of being open-minded and listening to other people, you're just automatically going, that's not true, that's fake news, X, Y, and Z. Once you start getting people riled up about something and having an emotional response, I think that it's really easy to play into those fears, into those worries, into those concerns, and start indoctrinating a whole body of people the way you want them to behave, in my opinion.
And I think it's also crazy because we had like this whole idea that we would have this landslide win by Biden. Like, everyone was woke, get it to election day, and we would see like this blue wave. No, that blue wave did not play out. That we're seeing these results that are so close. It's mind-blowing.
Well, there are different definitions of woke these days. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like a person could say, oh, I'm woke because I know about QAnon and I know about all this is happening. Or no, I'm woke because, I recognize America's original sin and repercussions throughout generations. So it's, you're right. There's like different versions of woke.
Yeah. Yes. There's too many different variations of woke. There's too many different vibrational frequencies happening at the same time as well.
Yeah. Let's go there. We can go there.
We can go there? Okay.
Yeah, okay. Let's go to vibrations.
But what I was going to say, because you how it wasn't a landslide, it's not a landslide because the base that the current administration has cultivated is fueled off of hate and division. Hate is the absence of love. Okay? So how can you convince people to love their neighbor and to see the good in everybody if they don't see the good? They don't have that love existing in their hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more people are suffering, especially like now, you have a lot of people who are really down and out, stressed out about money, their homes, all of this stuff. So you're just fueling those fans of hate, the blame game. It's easier to blame, say, people who don't look like you or people who don't have the same belief systems as you. And then we have an administration that's fanning, like you said, this lower frequency, this lower vibration of hate. And once you get to that point, it's almost like you can't see the forest for the trees, in my opinion. On the idea of hate, we have a very I got to get mine type of energy culturally. So if you're already at this lower energy, you're not looking out for your neighbors. You're worried about yourself. I mean, voting for Trump might not affect you, but it's going to affect somebody else. But these people don't care. Some voters don't care blatantly. They just, it doesn't affect me, and this is what I want. Well, it's clearly evident. We're just getting over Halloween weekend right now, and all the numbers for coronavirus are skyrocketing everywhere. Right. I think Ohio reported the other day that they have over 4,000 cases in one day.
Right.
Okay, so we're on the verge of another shutdown because people aren't taking accountability. It doesn't affect me. I don't care. Oh, yeah. But people do not understand how the smallest actions you take can have a massive ripple effect, have a massive effect on many. One decision can change the course of everything. Yeah.
We just had election day. How did you get through it?
Oh, goodness. What I did was I consciously chose to not play into the drama. I'd already voted. I did my part. And I decided not to get on social media because I didn't want to hear the ups and downs, all of the arguing, the rants. I did not watch the news. I didn't look for updates because I knew that we weren't going to get any.
Oh my goodness. You went into it like, so, okay, it is what it is. I feel like that would make me like more stressed because I'd be so curious.
I was blissfully unaware, like I did other things, read a book or hung out with my fiance. That's like one of the things that my fiance says this all the time. He's like, what if people got hobbies? Like, what if it's a real thing. Like, what if we didn't subscribe to the constant news cycle? What if we sat down and, I don't know, learned a language or read a book or hung out with our friends and talked about something that wasn't Trump or Biden or the coronavirus? What if we just got out of that? And I'm not even saying get off of the internet, because you can curate your feeds. You can consciously go in and I'm only going to look at this. You don't have to look at the news 24 hours a day or get updates 24 hours of the day. You could just get the information you need to be informed and then do something else with your time. It's much better for your mental health, for me, or for my mental health. Because no amount of anger or fear or frustration that you're experiencing is going to fix what's happening right now.
Yeah.
You have to do your civic duties, do what you should as a citizen, vote, and do what you can on your level. You sitting in your home crying about the possible fate of the country and the world does not fix it. No. So all you're doing is giving your energy and feeding this horrible mongering thing that we're in right now. So
I feel like next election, I really want to try that.
I folded. I was going to take her lead. I was like, hell yeah. I'm going to just tune out, not do any of this stuff. But then as soon as you're like, well, I wonder what the update is.
Yeah.
I checked and checked and checked until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 a.m. We're into a bunch of stuff. We are into mindfulness and all types of other modalities and stuff. So I would put on the live feed for like 5 minutes and then I would flip to Hertz music. And I would just like lay in meditation. I don't know. It's out of my hands. I don't know what's happening with the hellbound people, the soulless people who voted for Trump, but I'm a good person and hopefully my energy can radiate out and have a positive impact on many.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So how did you find yourself able to grasp that mindfulness of not wanting to be plugged in 24/7? What gave you the willpower to be able to be like, okay, I'm going to unplug?
Last election in 2016, I didn't do that.
That was another beauty.
And I was miserable. I cried. How do you move from Obama to Trump? And affect me on an emotional level. So I don't want to repeat that this time around. But also, we call it Blackout Mode on our podcast. It's whenever you just literally black out. You don't subscribe to anything that's going to make you feel like crap. Because you have a choice in what you give your energy to as people, and you have a choice in the media that you are engaging in. I started doing that at the start of COVID in particular. I've done it forever. We both have. But I really started putting effort in during the outbreak of COVID because it felt like it was a constant updates of the people who were dying, the people who were sick, then the fear, oh my goodness, am I going to get sick? To the point where if I had a sniffle, I'm freaking out. You can't live like that. So I went on blackout mode then. Magically, I felt fine. Like she said, we're both Reiki masters. We're both really into mindfulness, a lot of different modalities that we are into and practice. So my technique was to work on, my root chakra is obviously a wreck during that time period. There's no grounding. I'm going off in my head. So what started it, kick that on whenever I need it throughout this whole pandemic. And I knew that was going to be a reality for election night, because then you start spiraling. Like you were saying, as soon as you look at it, you start thinking of all the worst things that could happen. Yeah, and where the attention goes, energy flows. So if you are thinking that it's doom and gloom, you're one of millions of people thinking the same exact thing. So then we're collectively manifesting that result.
Yeah, I was going to ask, does that help the situation or does it hurt the situation?
All of us being sad and scared is not helping.
Right.
What helps is you cultivating your vibration and your reality, which is what you are existing in right now. Living in the moment, not worrying about the past, not worrying about the future, but staying present.
Right.
And what's real is what's happening right now. What's real is you listening to this podcast. What's real is your existence, your friends, your family. We're so farly separated from the ruling class. in these other people that we're told to trust in and believe in, praise, whether that be celebrities or political figures. We're waiting for somebody to save us, but we have to save ourselves.
Yeah.
And you start that by being nice to people, caring about humanity, caring about the well-being of your fellow man, caring about the rights people should have. Because stuff that's happening right now that people are blindly accepting should never happen. Okay. Right. History is repeating itself because people are not learning. They're not changing their hearts. They're not learning from all the atrocities that have occurred.
I really like the thing you said about caring about rights that other people should have. I feel a lot of folks probably who voted for Trump, maybe they pinched their nose and pulled the lever, or did their touchscreen thing or whatever. And they were thinking about themselves and not necessarily thinking, oh yeah, this might hurt my neighbor, or this might affect their rights. This might empower police brutality, or this might take away from immigrants' rights, or it might really affect people of color. They were thinking, I can't put my head in like a Trump voter. I can't wrap my head around it. But why don't people more often think about their neighbors' rights?
Oh, I think that's layered. To be honest, how you were raised. There's some people who don't believe certain populations deserve rights.
Wow.
Period.
Yeah.
To this day, 2020.
In 2020.
Yes.
To this day.
And who want to see suffering. I mean, they can turn a blind eye to what's going on at the border because they don't think those people should be here anyways. I don't know where that stands. This is native land. So that's something I can't wrap my head around ever, not wanting certain people to be here whenever we are occupying, in my opinion, stolen land.
And the people that these racist people do not want African-American people here. Well, your ancestors brought them here.
Right.
Okay. Telling people to go home, they don't have a home. Their heritage is completely gone.
Right.
There's no way to track their lineage. We're multiracial women sitting right here. Okay. We are lucky enough to know the name of our great grandmother who was brought here as a slave. Okay. Right. So how many millions of African American people have no clue who their ancestors were? But then you ask Tommy down the street, he's from Ireland. He can track it all the way back to who knows what king. But we don't have that luxury. Okay. We are Native, we're African American, and we are Caucasian.
It's at the height of ignorance to tell someone to go back to someplace, go back where you came from. Yeah.
I mean, but I think there's a lot of wounds that this country has to heal in general.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of shadows we haven't faced as a nation that play out. I don't think we've reconciled our nation's past. We kind of glaze over it. I mean, when we talk about that, I'm referring to us not being taught what happened to natives in school. Clearly, what happened to the native people that were here prior. And that we don't talk about, obviously slavery like we should. We don't talk about African American history. It's like a separate elective in a lot of schools.
Yeah.
So then that creates discord. We don't talk, basically any minority group has been kind of left out of the history when we learn it in school. So then it starts to create this layer. We're like, well, what's real? What's not real? Did this really happen? I have no idea.
And then that's like a vacuum. We can fill that with whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that you have that plays into it. And then there's also conditioning from the media, like we've talked about before. And I keep bringing it up because it is really important. Until something is brought into our awareness of how to deal with, because the internet, all of this is new. This is our first time encountering being able to be manipulated in masses through these apps that are designed to make you addicted to them, that are designed to keep you on them, keep your attention, being sold products, it's influencing political campaigns, it's the whole plethora. So you have that plays into it. And then I think fear, we have started out talking about, is huge, because if you're fearful that something is going to go away for you, you want to preserve that. And if that means that you have to take it from somebody else, then you don't care because you're like, well, it's mine. Like my life's on the line for some reason. I think collectively we've been conditioned to worry about ourselves more than others. And it's easier to turn a blind eye if you're not being affected by it. So that's something that we have to break as a collective to start coming from a place that isn't just centered around the individual. I remember whenever I was in college, we were at the seminar and the guy said to all of us, he was, look at your friend sitting next to you. They're going to be your competitor. And I thought that was so strange because what if we believed that we did live in an abundant universe, that there was enough for everybody, that everybody could have their share? Okay, if I can have healthcare, why can't somebody else have healthcare? Or if I can go on a vacation, why can't somebody else go on a vacation if they're working hard for that? You know,
Right.
We're already ingrained that you have to get yours, you're the only one that matters. The thought process behind that is, well, if I make sure I'm good and I'm taken care of, and I don't care about what happens to other people, well, they're going to think about themselves. So they'll be taken care of because they're thinking about themselves.
Right.
So the idea is that if we're all selfish, we're all going to make sure we have what we need. But what ends up happening is you have people who hoard, who don't care about suffering. If somebody falls down, they don't want to pick them up because they might get to the finish line first, have this rat race. But what if we shifted our thinking, like, nothing's going to hurt me if I help somebody else. My rights aren't going to get taken away if I help preserve somebody else's rights.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it seems like there's a segment of the population, or we're all probably guilty of it, of thinking that by doing something for somebody else, it's going to harm us or it's going to put us out in some way, which isn't the case at all, in my opinion.
I think a lot of people have had that
Yeah.
at some point in their lives, have operated from that paradigm, or whatever you want to call it, because of the program that we've had, because of the schooling, because of when you go to college, your friend's your competitor now. It's, I don't know, these beliefs that they projected onto us, and then we have to fall in line with the structure that they put in place and do what they tell you to do, or else. So you have people who, like us, who don't subscribe to that stuff. We want to be happy, want to be free, and want to live authentic life. So you have that frequency operating. So there's a lot of people who are operating like that. They deem them the millennials. Millennials did that because most people who graduated from college during the last recession were unable to get jobs. And if they did get jobs, they were only making minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So you're coming out of school with $100,000 worth of debt, and you're going into a office job making $12 an hour. When you were sold the entire time you were in college, you were going to make incomes of $100K, $200K, and then that reality didn't occur. So you try to figure it out because there's no savior. We save ourselves.
Yeah, when it comes down to it.
The get mine culture, I said we have all these different vibrations that are operating at the same time. We have different realities happening. You have people who subscribe to the I work hard, you have to work really hard to get what you want in life. And that's why I deserve to buy $40 million worth of Birkin bags and just sit them in a closet somewhere and just drive my Lamborghini past the homeless people down the street. So there's people who are completely cool with that operating. And these people who are like, I don't understand, quote unquote, light workers, or people who just, I want to have a better world. I don't understand how you can just do that. Why are people buying these expensive purses and designer clothes and blah, blah, blah during a global pandemic where people don't have enough money to pay for their houses and feed their families? So how do you justify those actions? How?
I don't know. It's funny because I was watching this video. It was like an interview of these two ladies. They were voting for the president, and the correspondent was asking, what's wrong with Biden? And the first go-to was, he wants to give everyone free healthcare, and he wants to give everyone free college. What? We can't do that. What in the world will we be doing that? What is so bad about giving everyone free education?
I don't know. I really don't
Our
know.
society has evolved past the point of all these pay gaps or whatever, these roadblocks, these paywalls and road gaps. Everybody should have affordable everything. Having healthcare is our right. We should have free healthcare.
Right.
Women shouldn't have to pay for feminine products when it's something that we need every month. And there's huge majority of the population in the world, in India and so on and so forth, that don't have access to have feminine products. That's one of the issues.
I sometimes think about back in more primitive time or in tribes, and if someone got hurt, I'm sure that whole community would come to help and support that person. But just to make sure, like Bob from this part of our tribe got hurt, we have to go and make sure he's okay and bring him back up to speed. But we're not like that today anymore.
No, we're not. No.
He's gonna be all right. Hope he has insurance. What? How do we get so far away from caring for our neighbor?
It's really bizarre too, because a lot of so we have these huge religious organizations, thousands of people subscribe to.
Billions.
You would think that there would be more,
Millions.
more
Billions
people.
of people.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, that's what is mind-boggling. Like, you would think there would be more people who would want to do that, especially people who believe that they are very religious and very spiritual.
Right.
And it seems it has become this, I would say it's a newer, think of how old the earth is. Think of how old everything is.
Yeah.
Societies would function as a group prior to what we call modern. Like, this is all, to me, like a more modern phenomenon that we're so selfish. Things that I think are like a modern phenomenon are how we perceive gender, how we perceive sexuality, how we perceive like people around us. We can learn a lot from, say, indigenous cultures and what happened pre-colonialization and how those societies were shifted and changed.
Or what about even like the settlers?
Yeah.
The colonists first got here. Oh, he doesn't have insurance. We can't help him out. When did this shift to monetize caring for someone else monetarily detrimental to you? I'm sure when the colonists first got here, whether it's the folks who landed at Plymouth or the folks at Jamestown, they had to care for each other because it's a community. I can't imagine, like, even during the 13 colonies that a hospital would send someone away. How do we get to this point where we're so worried about
on that note, I would say that those pockets probably only cared about their pocket, though. The settlers probably only cared about them. They weren't caring about the other groups. Eventually, we evolved to these people bringing slaves over here. So they clearly didn't care about what wasn't deemed good enough in their eyes. So I think perhaps that energy has carried forward. So what happened?
But what about this? Slave owners and their communities, probably very tight-knit communities. Like, slave owners traded slaves within themselves, their own community. I'm sure when someone got hurt, we have to go help them. They're our neighbor.
When the owner or the slave?
No, the owner.
Okay, I was going to say, because
I'm saying like the slave owners probably had a tight-knit community where they cared about themselves.
I agree with you that you cared about your community, but you cared about your community.
Your community. But now no one cares about any community.
No, they don't. They don't care about any community, but there's still loyalty within your own group.
And I feel like that loyalty has a threshold.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my goodness, we care about this, blah, blah. But they got hurt. Can you cover their medical bills?
Yeah.
And, it's like, oof,
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that's what we're starting to wake up to. We call it the revolution. It starts from you caring. Like, that's what a real revolution looks like, is shifting away from those things that have been ingrained in us from childhood, that you are the only one who can take care of yourself. Sheets that you have to look from within. You have to get yourself right, and then it goes outward. That's different than I got to get mine. Healing yourself and getting yourself in a good place where you need to be in life is something different than there's not enough for me. I have to get mine. I have to take from my neighbor. I'm going to step on my friends to get to where I need to be. Like, those are two different types of energies. So what if you were able to find your own path, your own way, and then also lift people up with you as you're going through life? What if you were able to help out your friends if they can't afford to pay their medical bills? Really, I don't know why we treat helping other people
like it's
as if it were
burden.
Yes, like it's going to hurt you in some way. Like when we talk about like universal healthcare and stuff like that, like working in other countries. So when Americans say it, it's not like there isn't an example. Right. There are a lot of examples of how free education and free healthcare do help the society and the citizens. And having, the education thing is mind-blowing, because wouldn't you want to have an educated population?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to have the best?
Well, an educated population is harder to control.
It's not even only like politicians against, like, it's like the general Republican populace, which is like, no, we don't want to pay for their education. That's a burden on us. It's going to raise our taxes. It's going to cost us to like help our neighbor become a little bit more educated, which is really bizarre.
It is. Well, do you think that it also probably varies on a person's personal motives, like deep down? And what I mean is, like, for example, if you there's this like book called Wealth Hoarders, and it's like the idea that the 20%. So we always talk about the 1%, but there's like this 20%, and then they all kind of stay in their communities, and then their kids all go to like these really good colleges, and they kind of like, it's like hoard that wealth as well. And it's like, well, what if there is like a fear that if there's more people in the pool, it's going to add more competition for their success? Yeah,
Okay,
or just like when we talk about like race, if you have like a white guy, who's been the dominant forever, even like not intentionally, like maybe there is this like fear that all of a sudden there's going to be more, it's not going to be as easy. There's going to be more competition for the job or for the pay.
If you give the population more skill sets, it makes it tougher for all of us. So by like holding back these things, it like benefits you, but like that's also very short-sighted, because it's like, yeah, it benefits you now, but like, what if you have a child, or maybe they do have children and they can't afford to send them to school? So it's like you kind of shot yourself in the foot because you don't want to help out your entire community.
Yeah. Well, do you think maybe that's like we're starting to slowly see those repercussions now, like with the amount of people who have student loan debt, or
I don't know if we're there yet. I also don't know like where, like, I think it'd be really interesting to see student debt like situated across the country, like which regions has the most student debt. So maybe it's like a Northeast or like a coastal phenomenon. So like, and the middle America might be like, well, our kids come out of school with 10,000 in debt, so why should we, forgive student debt for everyone when ours is manageable? I don't know. It's really weird.
Yeah. Well, I think it all goes back to like the lower frequency. I think it goes back to fear. At the end of the day, it's just everybody's fearful that they're not going to have enough, that they're not going to be able to get to where they need to be. They're not going to be able to get their needs met. I mean, whenever you say, let's have universal health care, well, who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
There's that instant fear that, well, I'll have to pay for it, and I already don't have enough to pay for it. It goes back to like not believing that there's enough for everybody, and that there is no harm in helping other people at the base level. Like, even though people say that, oh, I would never do anything wrong, I would never hurt anybody, like our little actions have repercussions as a whole, it down to even the smallest, like just being nice to like a person working at a grocery store, or like, little things like that. It like builds up, and things, we often think that a lot of what we do doesn't matter and doesn't have like an impact at all. And I think it does. And I think that it we're just seeing like this layer of it. It just keeps building.
I'm about to hit you with a heavy question, and I want both of you to attempt to answer this. What can a national politician do to help raise the frequency or the vibration of the nation? What could Joe Biden and Kamala do to like help us get out of this like rut?
I think that they could not play into a divide, truly mean it, to not play into.
We've kind of seen a little bit of that from
we have,
Joe
yeah.
Biden, yeah.
Okay. And then to somehow make people feel like there's hope, that there's security, that like
that they're heard.
Yes, that they matter, that they're not. I mean, I think that there is definitely an energy that we don't have control. Like we have no control over our lives. We have no control over who's making money. Like there are people who made money off of this pandemic. That makes you feel like you have no control because you're great. Like I have to rely on this corporation. I mean, to me, I think a politician would have to take large steps to really heal the populace. And there's going to be steps that I don't think politicians are going to take. Okay, here's an example. Why are corporations involved in our political system? Why are religions involved in our... Yeah, we know why, but it's having religion shouldn't be involved in our political choices at all. Like, we could very well...
It's literally the whole name of the game for Republicans.
It is. I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, until we look at people as everybody's the same, everybody deserves, X, Y, and Z, and it actually mean it and not just be talk. I think that would change everything. I don't know if it would ever happen. I think it would be small steps. Of course, you want to restore faith in the collective, of Americans, and you want to make sure everybody feels secure, make sure that everybody feels that they have rights. We have a lot of people who believe that their rights are going to be taken away right now, especially with what's going on with the Supreme Court. So it's how you'd have to ensure that everybody feels like you were saying before, being heard, that their rights aren't going to be taken away, that there's some sense of stability. Now everybody wants some sense of normally, a clear path.
I feel like we could get to a sense of stability relatively quickly. Another thing that when you're speaking of Native Americans, we have nations in our nation, and they were here long before us, and I feel like they literally have zero input into our national, kind of destiny.
I mean, one could argue that a majority of us don't have any input. Yeah. Let's just be real on that. We're looking at it right now. What's happening right now with just the way the voting's going. Yeah. You should be able to send your vote in and trust that it's going to be counted and not be dismissed or thrown away because somebody decided that they won.
Yeah.
We've
had enough voting.
I personally don't believe in the Electoral College. I mean, it should be popular.
Well, I think what Kamala and Biden can do, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris can do right now would be, because there's so many issues that need fixed. There's so many of these structures that need to be fixed. But right now they could start with would be giving people a plan, a financial plan, because there's so many people who are unemployed right now. So many people are hurting to try to figure out how they're going to pay their bills or racking up credit card debt. Tell us, okay, well, you're going to get a stimulus check every month. Every citizen. Tell people that they're going to have some sort of money controls the world. So if you tell people that they're going to have something coming in and actually follow through with it and stop using us as political pawns in this game, that would be a great place to start. Fantastic place to start. But that's what I'm predicting is going to happen in the new year. I think that they've been purposely holding off on both sides to help get the election on either way, because it's just look how other countries have given their people,
Canada, $2,000 a month.
They give them financial incentive to stay home, but if people would stay home and not feel like they had to go risk their lives for their jobs if they knew they had something to fall back on. But I think collectively people feel like there is no hope, there is no savior, there isn't that security. But that's somewhere they could start. Yeah. Tell people you're gonna get a stimulus check. Don't give us one and then have it not happen again for how many months have we been in this situation?
They gave us, $1,200 months ago, and they acted like it was a stretch. You know what I mean? There's this energy, gosh, I can't. At the same time, you're telling people not to go to work, not to go try to make a living. So of course, there's gonna be no trust in the government, no faith, because how can you do those things? How can you say those things and do those things for a population that you're supposed to care about? We forget that there are we are hiring them. There are public servants, not the other way around. And I think that if somehow they could restore that, like you said, I guess immediate would be to have consistency, to actually put in effort. We do care about what, you guys hired us, so we're going to do our job. not the other, like go on break constantly as if the suffering wasn't happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it feels like the ruling class is so far away from the real people.
Mm-hmm.
So they need to make it seem like they're actually doing their job, not going on these leaves and these vacations. I'm not saying Biden or Kamala are doing this, but as a majority of the government systems are happening right now, we're in a global pandemic, and they've gone on these breaks like every week, every 2 weeks.
Like a crisis isn't happening.
A crisis isn't happening. Like, we want to see our people working around the clock to try to fix this. Give us tangible plans of what can fix this.
Yeah, not perpetuate a divide within the people, which you see some politicians doing. Like, somebody got elected recently who you were saying was a QAnon supporters. I agree with, like, we are in a global crisis. Why are the politicians not sitting down and focusing on what the fuck they're going to do to help everybody? Instead, we're all crossing our fingers that an election will go a certain way. And it's like, it's really mind-boggling. And it's like, do we just have a huge group of people who are completely unqualified for their jobs and somehow bamboozled us all into leading the country?
We hire these people to work on our behalf.
They don't do anything.
They don't do anything.
They argue
on our behalf. They argue and use our lives and our existence for their gain. That's something that needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Term limits. We shouldn't have our basic human rights, our rights with our bodies and who we can love, be on the table every single 4 years. It shouldn't be a thing. Okay, our society has evolved way past the point of trying to keep these. I'm referring to the Supreme Court. I'm referring to, Roe versus Wade. I'm referring to just the right to exist as you are. Should not be up for grabs every couple years. It should just be, this is it. We shouldn't have to worry. So why do they keep using this as a tool to try to win elections or so on and so forth?
Kind of what you're speaking to when there's an opening on the Supreme Court, when they're interviewing and going through this hearing process with a new justice, they're bringing up things that you would think is settled. Like, why are we talking about Roe versus Wade? It's done. Like,
why are we trying to constantly strip rights away from people?
There should be term limits for the Supreme Court too, because their rule, it gets to the point where they're so old. Are they connected with the people who are going to have to face the repercussions of their choices
for generations,
for years?
Yeah,
you shouldn't have somebody who's pushing 100 making these decisions. Any other job, if you had an 89-year-old roll in trying to swing weight, they would be like, okay, sit down, you have dementia, it's fine. They wouldn't allow them to be making these life-changing decisions. And that's not even isolated to the Supreme Court.
It's also like the Senate.
The Senate, it's also like the House. There needs to be at least more age diverse, because I believe that we need older people because they are experienced. They have this knowledge that young people don't have. But it's just like if we had a whole bunch of 25-year-olds making the decisions for everything. It would be kind of weird, It would be kind of weird. So, but if we could have a nice blend of different age groups to contribute, it would be a lot better versus everybody's. Because at this point, some of these people are probably that crazy uncle that you tell to be quiet at dinner.
That is the current president. That is the current president.
I feel like the people who, folks go through primaries and then, that person gets elected. The voters aren't doing their due diligence.
They're not, because they feel we have a portion of the population that doesn't feel like their vote is counted.
Yeah.
They don't think it matters.
But QAnon lady ran in the Republican primary against other folks. They chose her.
That's what I don't understand. Right now, there is information, you're holding a phone that has so much information, so much knowledge. You're an adult who has, hopefully graduated, or can think freely, work a job, raise children. Why aren't we researching? Why are we limiting it to one source that's a random blog? Why aren't we have so much information? It's not like we have information, there's suppression of information and you have no access to it. There's just a vast array of everything. Everything's accessible. You can get books on your phone. You can get, if you don't want to look at the news, you can read a newspaper on your phone. Like, you don't want to do, YouTube or whatever it is, whatever you're doing, there's all these different resources. So I don't understand why we aren't doing more research, why we aren't at least like branching out and figuring things out. Like, why is it all dependent on like some small thing? Like, if you ask somebody what their source is, are they able to tell you why they believe X, Y, and Z? Where do they get it from? What do they read? What, why they formulate their opinion? It's like a constant, like, oh, I got it off this blogger. Oh, I saw Twitter. Somebody tweeted this. Like,
I saw this random thing on YouTube.
Yes. So it's like weird to me because it's not like there is a suppression of information because there's so much information out there. Right. So I don't understand why it's even like, I keep bringing up like COVID, like why do we need a government to tell us to wear a mask whenever there's data that proves that it's working in other countries? Like there's proof, and back to us all being grown and able to make decisions and formulate like our own opinions. Like, why can't you just wear the mask whenever there's actual, research?
Well, because people have like medical issues and they can't breathe and it's really difficult for them and they can't do it and they have a right to freedom.
I think people don't want to acknowledge that there's more than just their town. Mm-hmm. They don't want to acknowledge that there's a vast world around them. And if they actually acknowledge that, it would just break up their framework a little bit. There's a lot happening in the world, and America has the best marketing and advertising, period.
Which is scary for better.
And it is scary.
So you're saying if they were to actually like branch out, it will affect their worldview and their belief systems, and that's why they don't want to do it.
Well, maybe they don't even realize that it would affect. They're just like, no, this is what I know. This is like what I'm safe with, comfortable here.
I think it's been a huge part of the problem for this whole COVID situation is that people's identities were formed around their jobs and committing their time to their work or their schooling or whatever. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have an identity outside of that.
I want us to go back into mindfulness in this last bit. And I want you to tell me a little bit of like something that people can do to kind of like chill out because there's a lot going on. Find
joy present in the moment.
I love that. That's
it's fine. Get your grounding and really evaluate what really matters to you. When you sit down, sit in that space and think about that. Like what really matters is the way I'm feeling right now about external circumstances helping my current situation. Is me exerting my energy and fear helping? How's it helping right now? So to just get grounded, disconnect and stay informed, but disconnect for a while and get your grounding. Watch something funny, play the video game, read the book, get a new hobby, and be more productive with your time.
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's definitely grounding because right now everybody's feeling not as connected to like where they're at in the present, where they're at, where they're going. It's just this constant, everything's falling apart or X, Y, and Z, all the arguing, all the, all this just fear, everything. But if you take a moment and step back and ground your energy and figure out like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what's happening in my world. Everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. And like you said, stay in the present because most of our anxiety is coming from like us worrying about what already happened or worrying about what could happen. Right. So if you go within and you figure out what can I do in my capacity right now for myself, maybe how can I help other people? And then I would 100% disconnect because are your opinions and your belief systems being formulated by a news anchor or are they your own that you hold? Are you giving your energy away to some jerk on Facebook or like, you don't have to do that. Like you can consciously decide the information you take in and what you allow into your realm of existence, what media that you're consuming. You can tailor your experience here to benefit you so that you're not falling apart. And that doesn't mean that you should stay uninformed. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be open to other people and like the worldview. It just means like to cut through, just cut through the BS, like cut through everything that is affecting you at your like basically like soul level, in
It
my
is.
opinion. Like, what is making you feel like horrible about yourself, and get rid of it. Because you have that power, and if you just take a moment and go within and figure that out, you'll be like, oh yeah, I do have that.
Just try it for a couple of days and see how significantly different your life's going to improve. It is easy to feed in all this stuff, and then it's easy for us to tell you just turn off your phone.
Yeah.
Don't get on the internet. Like, it's easy, but just try it, give it a go. And one of the things like I do take out, like, there are positives to this year that has happened. There's positives that are occurring.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the positives of this year.
Okay, so I think that if you can dig out the positives, one is that it shows how interconnected we all are. So we were discussing about how we're very individual, how we're really like, I have to get mine. I'm the only one that matters. But right now, we are all depending on each other to help each other out. Like, wear your mask. Like, it's showing how and it's not even just America, it's like a global scale of how this one virus has completely affected the way the entire world operates. So hopefully, like, what people take from that is that your actions matter, what you do matters, because if, just small things like one person wearing a mask could prevent a whole bunch of people from getting sick. So I think that's one of the big things, that it shows that we can unite. We can.
We should unite.
We should. It shows that, though. It's a physical reflection in this reality of that. And then I think that it's also made people reevaluate what matters and what they really want to do. I mean, at least with our platform and our following, we're seeing a lot of people who are doing career changes, who are figuring out like, oh, this isn't for me. And it's really making people take a step back, especially when we had the quarantine. It was making people stop for a minute to realize like what they want. And I'm wondering if a lot of people have made life-changing decisions this year that are going to reroute their entire lives for the better without even realizing it, through whatever suffering is happening,
It has allowed the slowing down to have the time to think about.
The slowdown.
To slow it down and remove those distractions, that you actually have time to sit in that energy and understand, like, what do I really want? And I think it's also helped me, like, value connections with other people.
Oh, yeah.
In normal life, pre-2020, like, everybody's so busy getting from point A to point B that they don't acknowledge the in-between. They don't take a moment to appreciate the people that you know or knew. So that's been something that's been a blessing, is having a lot of people, making new connections and having other people that from the past that coming back and reconnecting and like being a person again, like being a normal person again, and taking the time out to actually develop new relationships with people. We have the time to.
Yeah, I think it's gonna make us value like contact as well. Like, we took a lot of things for granted, just giving somebody a hug or shaking a hand, when you meet somebody. Like, I think after this, we're going to realize how special those things are, like how special it is to sit down and like, maybe have dinner with somebody and actually like enjoy their presence without a fear that you're going to get sick.
I think it quickly made us all realize that humans are very tactile. We're very touchy. We, whether it's a hug, whether it's holding the door for someone, whether it's, whatever it is, we touch. We need connection.
And I think it's going to help people stop pushing off things for tomorrow. Like, just do it now. Don't wait to go to the concert. Do it.
Yeah.
I still push things off for tomorrow, but
no, I'm just saying, like in general, like I'm talking about my experience. Like, I would say, oh, I'll see that band next year, or I'll go to that club next month. And then that option wasn't available, and then you missed it. You're like, oh, I wish I could have. I wish I would have went to the bar every night for 2 months before COVID hit.
Yeah.
Or went to, like, to see our parents more, or, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, see your family.
Whatever.
Like,
yeah, the holidays are going to be really interesting, coming upon that. So,
or just being able to be in a crowd and not be scared.
Yeah.
Like, the way we interact with people in general is going to be a little tricky after this is all over. But I think it's just gonna be like people might start being nicer. We're not. I'm a very nice person. Yeah. I hope, but I think it's gonna bring more love out of people, and bring that, cultivate that culture of caring about your neighbor and caring about the well-being of a stranger.
I feel like this is like a really nice place to end, because if we have like a lot of like love and like goodness coming from the top down, maybe that will help, just all of us. Because over the last 4 years, we've had a lot of hate and division and anger and just clownery coming from the top down. So if we kind of remove those qualities and replace them with kindness and love and gentleness and peace and calm, I think that'll do our entire country some good.